Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
Happy Royal Rumble 2022 weekend, everyone. What's going on? I am psyched for the Royal Rumble, a very rare Saturday pay-per-view coming up tomorrow. So we are here prior to SmackDown to bust out these predictions. I've got to work tonight, so no SmackDown for me or Rampage or any of that stuff. So the only day I really had available to come up here and throw some predictions at you guys was today. So hope you guys are wrapping up your work week or whatever you're doing. Happy Friday to you. And if you live here in the States, it's a pretty fun damn weekend. We've got Royal Rumble tomorrow tomorrow. And if you're a football fan, Championship Sunday on Sunday. The two games that determine the Super Bowl will both be played. It's going to be a fun weekend if you like men beating the shit out of each other. So we are here to predict this year's Royal Rumble. My God, you talk about a crapshoot. I have no idea who to pick in either one of the men's or women's Royal Rumble matches, but a ton of speculation, a ton of possibilities. We're going to talk surprise entrance, scenarios, WrestleMania, Crown Jewel, all that stuff, trying to take into consideration to try to come up with a winner here as best we can. In terms of the undercard, I've got my matches pretty much set there, but it's probably going to be a lot of rambling and a lot of speculation as we're kind of going through all of these possibilities for who might be winning the Royal Rumble. We're also going to be getting into some wrestling news. Some news on Jeff Hardy came out today, which was very interesting. I want to elaborate a little bit more on the Danhausen signing by AEW, and maybe a little bit... a couple of other news tidbits I have written down, but nothing really that major. So we'll kind of get into that first, and then we will dive into the Royal Rumble. Now I'm going to predict everything here. I'm going to predict everything here without watching SmackDown tonight. So, what happens on SmackDown might affect, my thinking. If I was going to do the predictions tonight or tomorrow prior to the pay-per-view, I might have different ones, but I don't anticipate anything too crazy going down on the Go Home SmackDown tonight. They will probably just set the table for everything very nicely for tomorrow, and then we're ready to rock and roll in St. Louis. So we'll be getting to that here in just a minute. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Happy Friday to you. I know I'm usually not up here on a Friday afternoon, but it's just the way we had to do things this week. So I want to welcome Tim and Sam and Paul and Jet the Hawk and Jay Lambo, Rodrigo, Deshaun Robinson in the house, Punisher, Ben, David Brown. What's up, man? Glad you're here. Sam, Chaz, Vash, Zane, Atomic Cody. Right on. So a handful of y'all in here right now. Do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button for me. I'm sure most of you in here are subscribers, but if you're not, make sure you subscribe as well. The plan for this weekend is to do a Royal Rumble review tomorrow. I toyed with doing a live reaction, but we've been doing a lot of watch-alongs and live reactions on the channel lately. We do them every Sunday for classic pay-per-views, and we do them every Wednesday for Dynamite. So I kind of want to have my thoughts on the pay-per-view kind of recorded down in podcast form. I figured that would be best in terms of views and engagement and things like that on Saturday night. So tomorrow night after the pay-per-view, make sure you are here for our Royal Rumble review. I don't have a link on the page for that yet, but I'll do it tonight. So just keep a lookout for that. Save it. Give it a preemptive like and join us tomorrow night after the Royal Rumble. Should be a pretty awesome show. Looks like WWE is definitely planning some surprises, and the card is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about the card, especially the two title matches. And if we get big surprises in the Rumble, this could turn out to be a great Royal Rumble. We haven't had a very good one in the last, what was last year? Edge won in 2020, or I'm sorry, Edge won last year, but then in 2020 when McIntyre won, that's when the pandemic hit, and then last year we had the Thunderdome Royal Rumble, so it's nice to see the Rumble back in, a big arena. And WWE hopefully really going to set things up nicely for WrestleMania, and we also have Crown Jewel coming up ahead of that, which they might also make some matches for. So I think we have a lot of potential to see some big things tomorrow, and I'm just hoping, knocking on wood, fingers crossed, that we are entertained very much tomorrow. So let's hope that's the case. I never listen to myself. Y'all can hear me, right? All right, we're looking good there. Y'all would have told me if you couldn't. Right on. So we're not going to waste too much time today because I've got to hit work. SmackDown's coming on in 2 hours, so I want to try to wrap up this video within 1 hour. It might even be quicker than that because once we get rolling here, things might start happening quickly. But before we get into the Rumble predictions, I want to start off with a little bit of wrestling news. The Observer, Dave Meltzer, is claiming that Jeff Hardy was actually recently contacted by John Laurinaitis to return to the company. They want him back, and they tried to sweeten the pot by offering Jeff Hardy a spot in this year's Hall of Fame. And Jeff reportedly turned them down and said no, and he also is demanding the results of his drug test. Now, I don't even know what that means. I don't know if the night that he, at the house show when he kind of powdered out of the match and left, if they drug tested him right there. I don't know. Or if they drug tested him right around that time and he knows he was clean, he knows he didn't relapse. That whole situation was very fishy because it was almost immediate where Matt Hardy and Jeff's wife and everybody's coming out and say Jeff is fine, nothing's wrong. Every other time he's had a relapse or a fuck up, he's usually owned up to it. So this one was a little strange. It's hard to really take Jeff Hardy's word for it, considering how many chances he's been given and how many times he keeps screwing up. A lot of us couldn't really blame WWE for their swift reaction. If that was any other talent, they probably would have worked with him. But Jeff Hardy basically came back to the company back in 2017 with 2 strikes on him. So it was like, one chance and you're out. So maybe WWE jumped the gun a little bit and they didn't examine all the facts. They realized that Jeff is still in a good place. They might have let him go too early, and now they're terrified he's going to show up on AEW. His no-compete ends on March 9th. That's about a month and 2 weeks away. So you can damn well bet he's going to be turning up on AEW, because you put the Hardy Boys there with the Bucks, and with FTR, and think about the Hardys like, a veteran team like that honestly, I can't believe are still even active based on the style they had. If they can go into AEW and work with a couple of young teams and just be a couple of veterans there, it would be so awesome to see Jeff Hardy interact with a lot of talent there. One name specifically is Darby Allin, because I was one of the ones, even though I love the Darby Allin and Sting pairing. You guys remember when it first started, I was almost like, I don't understand where all the comparisons to Darby and Sting come from. Darby skateboards, but Surfer Sting never even surfed. They're not really the same. Sting was never one of these extreme sports nuts, that dives off of bridges and stuff. Darby Allin seems a lot more like Jeff Hardy to me, and I think it was just the black and white face paint is the only connection people were making between Darby and Sting. But if you get Jeff Hardy in there, I think Hardy and Darby and Sting, hell, all of them. Throw Danhausen in. Get those 4 guys face painted up in the ring. Hardy, Sting, Darby, Danhausen. Holy shit. Ratings, bitch. But I think Hardy going over to AEW would be a lot of fun, provided he can keep his shit together. We did a whole video when he was released, not showing a whole lot of sympathy for him because, you're back in WWE. You're lucky to have a job as it is, and you're lucky to be given so many opportunities and will be in the Hall of Fame one day, whether it's on his own, with Matt, or both. It's just apparently not going to be in 2022. I always thought that Jeff Hardy was an idiot for fucking up those opportunities, considering that WWE gives him chance after chance because of how good and marketable he is. And, not a lot of wrestlers have that. That he has that, kind of natural charisma and that ability to connect with every single member of the audience. Young people love him, old people love him, men love him, women love him, kids love him. Jeff Hardy is universally kind of respected. So I always thought that he had a unique situation, and anytime that he screwed up, I wasn't going to have a whole lot of sympathy for him. But if there's more than this than meets the eye, if he was drug tested that night and he was clean and WWE was holding back the results, whatever the hell that means in terms of him wanting the results of his drug test, I don't know, but WWE thought it was enough. It must not have been bad enough for them to keep him out of the company. They want him back, and I absolutely love it. It gives me a raging, mega huge erection whenever somebody turns down WWE. I love for people to say, go fuck yourself, because they're so arrogant in WWE, and they think in their heads that, we'll offer somebody the Hall of Fame because everybody would like to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Lots of people have turned down the Hall of Fame. So I'm glad that WWE does not, have the grip on pro wrestling that they think they do. And best of luck to Jeff Hardy. So whatever's going on there, I don't know. But I loved that he told the company basically to go F themselves. And hopefully he's going to be turning up on Wednesdays and hopefully finish off his career. And even after that, I do believe, despite everything, that Matt and Jeff will go into the WWE Hall of Fame one day. They absolutely have to. I think they can both make a case to be 2-timers. Jeff, for sure. Matt, it's debatable. Let me know what you think in the chat on Matt. Anyway, so that's the deal with Jeff Hardy. Becky Lynch has appeared on Broken Skull Sessions. That airs tonight. It actually might be on now. Actually, I think it is on Peacock right now, so you can check that out. The timing of that I found interesting because they normally do those on like Sundays, or they do them day of the pay-per-view. So if Becky was wrestling anybody other than Doudrop, part of me would wonder if she dropped the belt tomorrow. If they're getting her Broken Skull Sessions interview when she's champion, airing that while she's champion before she loses the belt, you think that has anything to do with it? Probably not. I really like Doudrop, but I don't think that she's really the person that should be taking the belt off of her tomorrow, especially after the run and the undefeated streak that Becky has had. I still think you need to pay off the Bianca Belair stuff, and as we'll talk about later, Ronda Rousey could be turning back up. So to put the belt on Doudrop now would be odd. So I think that tells you what my prediction will be later on. But if you want to check out Becky on BSS, that apparently is available right now. I have no idea when I'll be able to watch that, perhaps tonight, but most likely this weekend. The only clip that I saw was her doing a little wordplay with Austin, where he would mention something and then she would have to tell her greatest or say what her greatest of all time was. And when he said TV show, she said Saved by the Bell, which I think is the absolute worst TV show to ever air. I fucking hated that show. I was too old for it, but I had younger sisters, and whenever I would like walk through the house and they would have that shit on, I was in high school and I'm like, let me tell you, that ain't how high school is. It's horse shit. And I thought it was the dumbest show. And the only thing good about Saved by the Bell is that it spawned Zach Morris is Trash on YouTube. Check it out. It's a great video series and it's fucking hilarious. But I have a very irrational and unreasonable anger towards Saved by the Bell. I thought it was the dumbest show ever. So when Becky said that was her favorite show or her greatest show of all time, girl, I might be rooting for Piper Niven tomorrow. Anywho, as we saw on Wednesday, one of the better Dynamites we've seen in quite some time, and I think arguably, based on a lot of the reactions I've seen online, one of the best ladder matches of all time that we've ever seen with Cody and Sammy Guevara. I reacted live to that right here, and I was losing my mind during some of those spots. I've never seen a match where every single high spot was pulled off to perfection. I mean, even in ladder matches and, the big TLC matches with Jeff and Matt and Edge and Christian, there would always be some flub ups because Jeff would try to go too crazy, walking across ladders, on the top of the, in the ring and falling over or whatever. Everything was just pulled off perfectly. And that top of the ladder cutter is the damnedest thing I've ever seen. It was so graceful, so smooth, the way he came off that ladder and nailed Cody with it. Obviously, that is a bump of a lifetime. Sammy shouldn't be doing that in every match or anything, but that was just an amazing display, and some of the spots in that match were incredible, and I wasn't expecting Sammy to win, but he did. And then in the main event, of course, we saw Cassidy defeat Adam Cole, so Adam Cole's in the main event of a Dynamite. And based on this was a non-sanctioned match, and he's still undefeated. I think he's going to be Hangman Page's opponent at Revolution. You still have fans that think that Adam Cole made the worst decision of his life by going to AEW because he's buried now. Because if he would have gone to the red or blue brand, Raw or SmackDown, things would have been so much better. Could you imagine an Adam Cole, Baron Corbin, and Madcap Moss segment? Ooh, bring in the ratings, baby. My God. The fact that Adam Cole did not win the AEW title 25 seconds after walking in the door is not that concerning to me. So it just fucking tickles me the way fans are so goddamn impatient. The dude got there 3.5 fucking hours ago, and they think he should be champ yet, and the fact that he's not means that he made the biggest career decision, and he's buried, and he's useless, and all that stuff. Go fuck your mother. You don't know what you're talking about. Adam Cole is going to be fine. But in that match, we also saw Danhausen hanging out underneath the ring. He filled out a job application with A&W, and it was brilliantly well written and very professional and very evil. And they finally hired him. And of course, a lot of people have a huge problem with this too, because they don't know how to have any fun and they've never touched grass or a tit or anything. So I found it hilarious, and it got the highest performing tweet I've ever had. That I sent out yesterday is that the people who complain that that AEW only signs WWE guys, they want to know who Danhausen is, just like they want to know who Brody King is, just how they want to know who anybody is that's not from WWE. Have you ever noticed that? Any non-WWE indie talent, Warhorse who's come in, anybody like that, they come in and all those assholes go, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? But at the same time, these same dick lickers, they say that AEW only hires WWE guys, but then make fun of them when they don't. So you can't win with these people. I found it ridiculous. Danhausen isn't there to wrestle in the main event of All Out against Bryan Danielson for the title. That's not what he's there to do. Danhausen is a guy that deserves a shit ton of credit because he has gotten himself over. I've only seen like 2 matches of Danhausen's in my life, and one of them took place in a bar where he's standing on the bar and he's kicking guys to the Tequila song. The other one was in the ring, and he was doing more goofy shit than he was anything else. Danhausen is there to be a fun part of the wrestling show. I'm sure they will put him in situations that might force him to be a little bit more serious, kind of like they did with Orange Cassidy and stuff. But overall, I think he's going to be a little bit of comic relief. I think he's he's done a great job kind of developing his persona and getting himself over where everybody has taken notice to him. If you don't watch any Ring of Honor or anywhere else he worked, you've probably seen his likeness somewhere around social media. He sells a shit ton of merchandise, and he's going to sell a ton of it for AEW. You watch, he's going to be one of their top merch sellers. Bringing him in was absolutely the right call. It's a good move to make. You know, he's probably not getting millions and millions of dollars or anything, and he's probably there to be the Santino Marella, the comic relief, something that's existed in wrestling forever. Back in WWE days, you had fucking Uncle Elmer, and you had even babyface Animal Steel. Like late 80s Animal Steel was a complete goof. He was just there to be weird and goofy. He was never really a big threat to a title. He was somebody that the fans kind of liked, enjoyed to see, might get a chuckle out of you or whatever, and that's all Danhausen is there to do. So I think that's great. I think he's going to add a lot of fun to the show and a different dynamic, because we really haven't seen a character like him. He's extremely difficult to describe. So if you have no idea who Danhausen is, that's pretty much a good way to describe him, is that he's hard to describe. So to even have an issue with this, to even complain like an asshole, is just, I don't understand how these broke fucking losers who are begging for money on Twitter can get pissed that somebody else got a job and is finding success. It is absolutely hysterical to me, the way fans act, especially about something like that, and all the hate that has come his way that's completely unfounded. Bitch, why don't you try to get yourself a job in the wrestling business? You know, and before you criticize others, I think Danhausen did something that's very, very unique. He got his name out there. He got recognized. He created buzz, and he was selling merchandise without working for any major wrestling promotion. That's commendable. So anyway, welcome to AEW, Danhausen. Also, speaking of AEW, I just want to shout out to Charles Barkley, who was a guest on the Steam Room podcast this week, and he gave some props to Jon Moxley for entering the alcohol treatment, talked about him a little bit, and he mentioned that Moxley is a competitor in AEW on TNT, on that network, or on their network, and commended him for recognizing his problem, going to rehab, and said he was proud of him. He said he had a brother that he lost to addiction, and seeing Moxley do what he did was inspirational to him. And I don't think with Barkley, if you know Charles Barkley, he's just going to say whatever the fuck he wants. This isn't something that the network was making him say. Charles Barkley, I kind of think, let me know if you agree with me or not. I think Charles Barkley is kind of the NBA's version of Booker T. He's kind of the same thing. He'll just say whatever on the kickoff panels or whatever. They're very similar. So I thought that was just nice. And I'm a big NBA fan, especially back in the day. I grew up with Bird and Barkley and Jordan and even a little bit of Dr. J. And I've always liked Barkley, so I thought that was nice of him to give props to Jon Moxley. So that's all I really have jotted down for my news. We will start predicting the Royal Rumble here now, and then I'll go ahead and get out of here. Let me cruise over here to the chat. I know I got a super chat or two in here I need to answer. Nikita Abalakin, good to see you, man. He is a Patreon supporter as well. Having a nightmare of a shift at my bar in Germany. A huge group of Americans is just so loud and obnoxious. Sorry about that. Anyway, look forward to tomorrow. Will you do a live reaction if Rumble goes last? No live reaction tomorrow. Like I said earlier, I am going to do just the review. I'm sorry about my friends. Likely I know them. Their names are probably Mitch and Doug and shit like that. Tell them to shut the fuck up. And if they don't, just throw them out. Throw them out. They're horrible. Us Americans don't put up with us. But anyway, thank you for the super chat all the way from Germany. Glad you are here, my friend. All right. Oh, you want me to change my name to Paulie? Because it's a California name? Maybe. Paulie Shore? No thanks. Anywho, let's get into tomorrow's WWE Royal Rumble 2022. I've got I guess just 6 matches named for the card, announced for the show. We've got the 4 undercards and the men's and the women's Rumble. That should take up plenty of time, probably going to be a 4-hour show. We'll knock out the undercard first and then talk about the men's and women's Rumbles. And I want to preface this also with, anything that I predict here, also I always preach this, another thing that really kind of dictates, I think, who's going to win matches are the order of the matches. We got the men's Rumble, which theoretically should be the main event, but you also have Lashley and Brock. So is this one of the years where they do the Rumble early and then they do the title match, one of the title matches in the main event? That's what you have to look for here. If a championship match, then I mean Roman or Seth or Lashley and Brock, if one of those matches goes last, 100% title change. 100%. Just can't see it any other way. If you're not going to do a title change, then I would get both matches out of the way and then do the Rumble last. Although you could still do a title change on the undercard and have the Rumble go last. It's not a deal breaker or anything. And, you can't discount the Women's Rumble. I mean, if we're going to get a Rousey return, I suppose you could maybe put the Women's Rumble in the main event. But if you did that, I think the fans would smell it, because otherwise, why would you even put that in the main event? So you'd have to have something major happen, I think, for the Women's Rumble to be worthy of the main event. There's plenty of women's matches I think are worthy of main events on pay-per-views. This isn't one of them. So I think you would need a return like Rousey or some other big surprise to, to basically justify that. Otherwise, how can you not go with Brock or Lashley? So let's talk about these undercard matches first. The mixed tag we have to discuss. Edge and Beth Phoenix, of course, taking on Miz and Maurice. Kind of a no-brainer here. I did think that it was possible. We talked about this past Monday on our Raw review, that I thought that maybe it's possible that Miz and Maurice could get a victory over Edge and Beth, and then they run it back at Crown Jewel, where Edge and Beth get the victory. But I don't know if mixed tags it's hard enough to get a women's match in there, and they've already done that. And hell, last time I think they had a really good women's match, didn't they? That triple threat was pretty good, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know if a mixed tag's really going to go over well. So I kind of abandoned that idea. I think Edge, Beth, Miz, and Maurice will wrap up business tomorrow, and Edge and Beth Phoenix are going to have to win. I'd be really disappointed if they didn't, because of how greatly outmatched Maurice is compared to Beth Phoenix. And in a lot of ways, you can outmatch Miz with Edge, because Edge, Miz has got a lot of longevity and stuff, but Edge is Edge. He's a bigger star. So I think that baby faces all the way. Edge and Beth will win. I still think Miz and Maurice, though, have got to do something. That's why I think there's either a small snowball's chance they could win, or maybe something else happens on Raw or whatever, where Miz or Maurice gets some sort of a victory back. It's also possible that all four of these people can be in the Royal Rumble, and that's what I mentioned a couple weeks ago when this match was kind of rumored. I'm like, wouldn't you think that Edge would want to defend his Rumble victory from last year? Would he really be okay with not having an opportunity at the championship because he's got to wrestle some douchebag and his wife? You would think that Edge would want to still be in the Rumble, and he should be. So maybe they can have Edge and Beth go over in the mixed tag, but then in the Rumbles, Miz eliminates Edge and Maurice eliminates Beth, or one or the other. I'm kind of looking for that. So Edge and Beth Phoenix, I think, get the win in the mixed tag. Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's title against Doudrop. I'm liking Doudrop a lot more. I mean, I've always liked Piper, the little bit I saw of her in NXT UK. The Doudrop and Eva Marie shit was stupid, but her being in the ring as a bigger girl, I really like the way she moves a lot more than like a Nia Jax. She seems to use her weight well. She's got a great splash, and the promo, the little side-by-side thing they did on Monday wasn't bad. So I'm glad that Doudrop is at least, getting an opportunity. Hopefully she puts up a good fight here. But Becky, as much as I like Doudrop, and I'm perfectly fine with Doudrop getting the title down the road and not here. Doudrop could enter the Rumble and win it. It's possible, but not here. I think you got to keep the title on Becky until WrestleMania. WrestleMania needs to be the dropping point for Becky, and I think she's going to cough it up to either Ronda or Bianca Belair. That's my thought on that. So Becky retains over Doudrop. Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Seth Rollins. It's real easy just to pick Roman Reigns here and just say, oh yeah, of course, Roman Reigns is going to win. But, we heard the rumors of Seth Rollins kind of being penciled in to be the winner at day one, and he didn't because Roman got sick. They inserted Brock, and that whole thing got gummed up a little bit there because you were kind of thinking that Heyman and Roman might be trying to pull off a ruse here on Brock Lesnar, and whatever was going to happen there was going to go down at day one. But since it didn't, Brock Lesnar got the title, and now Paul Heyman, who we thought was just pretending to be Brock Lesnar's advocate, is back to being his full-time advocate again, and they're just going with it. So, at some point you got to think about, is Heyman going to turn on Brock and realign with Roman Reigns? Heyman has been in bed with the Samoan family for years and years and years, way back in the day. Remember when Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble in Philly and everybody booed him, whatever year that was, 15, I guess? And that was the night of the snowstorm, right? And then they did the Raw at the headquarters, and they had a big sleepover at the headquarters with the WWE talent, and they did the little sit-down deal with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Even back then, Heyman was professing his respect for his family, his father, his cousins, all that stuff. So I really think that Heyman, as much as we think of him with Brock, he really does belong with Roman, in my mind. So I kind of hope that that's where we get, but you would also think that turn of Heyman realigning with Roman would have to take place in some sort of a Roman and Brock match, but they're not facing each other now. They both have different opponents. So what the hell do you do? I would love, Seth Rollins is the most entertaining to me that he's ever been. I was always a Seth Rollins fan. I love that he owns a couple of clean victories over Brock. I supported him as a babyface, but I did see and recognize and understand a lot of the fans' complaints with him is that they just got over him, because that's what happens. The fans want a guy to get over, but then once they win the title, then you just tear him down. You know how we've all been, screaming for Cesaro to get a push? I promise you that if WWE tomorrow decided to put the WWE title on Cesaro and give him a 6-month run, by month number 2, fans would be bitching that Cesaro's boring. I promise they would. So they did the same thing to Seth. Seth had to then go in the Monday Night Messiah thing, and it's kind of morphed into this suit-wearing, cackling, obnoxious maniac that is fantastic. He's a terrific character. I love Seth Rollins. I absolutely think now that he's kind of hitting his stride again, that a championship is in his future. I'm just not so sure if it's here. Roman has had the title now for 500-something days. You got WrestleMania on the horizon. I feel like that when you end a streak like that, much like Becky's, it should be at WrestleMania. But, are you going to do 2 long title reigns and end them both at the same show, or do you try to break those up? Becky and Roman are ripe as fuck, and they got to drop those things at some point, unless Roman is just champion until the next damn election, which he might be. But I think for the purposes of this match and what WWE is maybe going to try to do at WrestleMania and rectify the Brock and Roman stuff that was screwed up at day 1, I think you got to go Roman here. So I think Roman is going to somehow get the win over Rollins. Because Seth said that if he wins the title, he's going to take the title back to Raw. That's another thing you got to remember here. Roman's facing a Raw guy. So just more throwing this stupid brand extension right out the window. So I think for the purposes of WrestleMania storylines and what their future plans are, I think Roman's got to come out of this match as the winner somehow. And you can try to keep Seth strong. You can even DQ this thing or whatever. The build has been pretty solid too. Even Seth Rollins dropped Jon Moxley's name on SmackDown. So everything's been great. And these two guys coming back together now, all these years later, with these two vastly different personas than they used to have, because they were battling back in 2016. They had a great match at Money in the Bank when Seth beat Roman Reigns right after Seth returned from his injury, beat Roman for the title. Dean Ambrose then came out and cashed in, and then Roman got suspended the next day. It was that real fun night where all 3 members of the Shield were in the same match as world champion, which is fucking weird. But they've been having great matches for 5+ years. Now, I think they can even have a better match because you've got their characters are more over than they have ever been ever. Arguably, I think Roman was never really truly that over, where Seth might have been a little bit, but I think both of them have achieved greater successes with these characters. So it's going to be a fun match, but I think Roman Reigns needs to go into WrestleMania as champion, at least crown jewel as champion in my mind. So I'm going Roman, some way to retain. Like I said, they could DQ it or do some way to give Seth another opportunity because crown jewel is on the horizon. Maybe you do another match there. I don't know. But Roman, I think, retains the Universal title. Brock Lesnar against Bobby Lashley for the WWE title. This is the one that can get weird. Now, if this match turns out to be the main event, I think it completely changes the game. If this match turns out to be the main event, then I think we got to get a title change. But you know what? I think we have to get a title change either way. I said earlier about the Paul Heyman turn. If that winds up happening, it feels like a better place for that would be a Brock and Roman match. But I think that was the plan for day 1. So I don't know how you do it now. I don't know if you wait and try to do another one at Crown Jewel, or if you wait a really long time and do Roman and Brock at WrestleMania and then you do the turn there. I just fear that by then fans are going to smell that turn coming 7 miles away. We can already kind of smell it coming. So what do you do here? Do you do the Paul Heyman turn here? And does he come out or does he's there with Brock? Maybe Roman, if Roman and Seth's match happens earlier, Roman comes out and screws over Brock or whatnot. and Lashley is able to win the title somehow. There's also been a lot of talk of Lashley going babyface. And like I said on Monday, based on the build here, they have not done a ton in this build that has made Lashley look very good. You know, especially in the weigh-in. Brock just came out there, did whatever he wanted, talked shit, and left. They haven't done a whole lot to really position Lashley as some sort of really credible threat to Brock's title, even though he should be. So really, the only person that really benefits here from a victory is Lashley. I think you got to figure out a way to have Lashley beat Brock for the title, and I don't think it's out of the question because Brock winning the title obviously was a last-minute decision for day one. They made that decision like the night before, so it's not out of the question that they would maybe take it back off of him, move it over to Lashley, especially if you add a Paul Heyman turn, if you add Roman Reigns, if you had any other outside factors into this. It could be a great way to put the title on Lashley and still allow Brock now to target Roman Reigns. Suppose the WWE title match happens before the Royal Rumble on the undercard. Brock drops the title because Roman interferes or Paul Heyman turns. He's pissed, beats the hell out of somebody, beats the hell out of Dominic, F5s him into the refrigerators and says, I'm taking your spot in the Royal Rumble, goes out there and fucking wins the thing. And then he says, Roman, I'm coming for you and your Universal title at WrestleMania. And there you go. You finally get that match. But, you know, we've already had a lot of Brock and Roman, so I don't know. I like the dynamic between the two. Brock, just like Seth, just like Roman, is a very different person than he was 3 or 4 years ago. So it adds a whole different dynamic. So that could be an option. Brock Lesnar could drop the belt and then come back and win the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't. But, you know, I got some other ideas for the Royal Rumble too. So in the end, I'm going to pick Bobby Lashley to win the WWE title. I think he should do it. I worry that if Brock Lesnar just F5s and pins Bobby Lashley like he did to Braun Strowman or Samoa Joe, what an incredible, colossal waste. Because with all of these variables, Brock pinning Lashley in the middle harms Lashley a bit. I mean, losing to Brock, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. But still, you know, Lashley just eating a clean pin right in the middle from Brock, I don't think will give you as much value as Lashley having a victory under his belt against Brock Lesnar. You know, if he wins the very first battle between these two, whether it's fair or not, whether there's cheating or shenanigans or what, you know, he will have that victory. And I think Brock, flannel cowboy hat wearing Brock, will easily recover from any shenanigan loss to Bobby Lashley. He lost shenanigans to Roman at Crown Jewel, remember? So why can't you do the same thing with Lashley? And it might just infuriate Brock, like I said, to maybe even come back and win the Royal Rumble, or to do something that will guarantee him Roman Reigns' ass at WrestleMania. So I think you get more bang for your buck with a Lashley victory, especially if you want to transition Lashley to being babyface. If he goes to babyface, he might have to split from MVP, even though I think MVP is a fantastic mouthpiece. You could do something where MVP costs Lashley the match. Like maybe Lashley's got Brock in the Hurt Lock or something. Something happens and MVP is to blame. And then the next night on Raw, or 2 nights later on Raw, you do the split and Lashley goes babyface. You know, and then maybe he targets, maybe he targets Brock again because Brock will still be your champion. So, and they run it back, you know, maybe at Crown Jewel or something. You got to think there's got to be some sort of rematch here with somebody at Crown Jewel. Something's got to happen at Crown Jewel. So that is a possibility, but I think I'm going to go Bobby Lashley to beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE title, likely with a bunch of help. So we shall see. Now we got to get into the Royal Rumbles. We'll start with the Women's Royal Rumble first. I didn't even write down these names. I pulled up WWE.com so I can look at the picture and just roll off these names. It looks like we got 21 women announced for the Rumble. Before we get into that, though, some of the names that have been mentioned on social media and the news sites spotted in St. Louis are some interesting ones. We got Michelle McCool, who I believe is in the Rumble. Yes, I see her there. So she's already announced for that. And Undertaker is with her. So Undertaker is probably there for her. But I suppose it's possible that maybe Taker could do something at the Rumble or maybe make an appearance. Who knows? Caitlyn has also been spotted. Cameron, Ivory, and JBL, Jerry Lawler, and Titus O'Neil. Those are some of the names I saw tossed around. So it makes me think that absolutely Michelle McCool, Caitlyn, Cameron, and Ivory will be in the Rumble. Cameron, I don't think is very good. She worked a Dynamite match, I think, last year that got terrible reviews. But if you reunited her with Naomi, could be fun. So might see her there. I think it would be a lot of fun to see JBL in the Royal Rumble. I don't like JBL. He's a prick. He blocked me on Twitter, but he'd be fun to see in there as just a random entry. Why not? What can hurt, right? So anyway, the Women's Rumble has been announced, or the competitors have been announced, but we're missing a few. So as of right now, we've got, of course, Mickie James. She's the one big Forbidden Door entry that we've gotten from Impact. She's the current Impact Women's Champion. So, of course, she is in this thing, along with a lot of legends from the past. We've got Kelly. We've got Lita. We've got both of the Bellas, Michelle McCool, legend Summer Rae. We also have, that's it. Those are the only legends that I see on this picture. So let me run through all the names here. Kelly, Mickie James, Lita, Tamina, Zelina, Carmella, Shayna, Nikki, Brie, Michelle McCool, Summer Rae, Aaliyah, Shotzi, Natalya, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Dana Brooke, Naomi, and Nikki Cross. So I believe this leaves, or Nikki ASH, I believe this leaves 9 spots open. So I'd say Cameron, Caitlyn, and Ivory could be 3 of them. That brings us up to 24. And you could potentially maybe see a Stacy Keibler or a Tori Wilson, although I think WWE would have announced them. And curious if we're going to see anybody else. Now, the Forbidden Door stuff, we'll talk a little bit more with the men, even though the women are the ones that have the Forbidden Door currently open. But in terms of any other surprise names, the only one I could possibly think of, you got to remember the Iconics turned down a spot in the Rumble as well. Maybe Big Swole? I don't know. I mean, nobody would know who she is. I mean, well, I don't want to say that, but WWE probably wouldn't bring her in as Big Swole and tout that she's been over in AEW too much. But, she's, I think, free and clear from them. She's married to Cedric Alexander. She even tweeted about the Royal Rumble today. So maybe she could come back debuting some new name. And after that, she'll be in the Rumble and maybe report down to NXT and, get rolling. Who knows? But she's one of the only other names I can think of, unless you guys have some suggestions on the women's side who could potentially be coming out. Trish Stratus, possibly. Nia Jax, I could see her maybe being brought back for a spot. Candice Michelle, Victoria, good options there as well. But you never know, and that's the thing with a match like this. To me, there's only a few possibilities. Number one is a repeat for Bianca Belair. With everything they've done with Bianca and Becky and how they've kept Bianca strong despite the feud with Becky kind of being put on hold for a while, it feels like to me that they're gearing up for WrestleMania, for a match between those two. Bianca gets the win back from SummerSlam and wins the title for a second year in a row, maybe on the undercard of night 2. I think last year she was in the main event of night 1, so maybe this time she's on the undercard of night 2, and the other women's match main events night 1, and then whoever Roman faces will main event night 2. So Bianca Belair is probably my biggest hope, because I think that she's phenomenal and amazing, and I think that they've got a monumental star in her, and they should not, squander that. So with everything they've done, I feel like the story is to do Bianca and Becky again at WrestleMania, and having Bianca winning 2 Rumbles in a row and then beating 2 of the 4 horsewomen at back-to-back WrestleManias for a championship, Raw and SmackDown would be pretty awesome. So I really want that for Bianca Belair. Another kind of sleeper name I think would be Alexa Bliss. We've seen her doing that therapy shit on Raw, and she seems to be maybe slowly getting back to who she was. She could be a dark horse pick, but then again, she already had a title shot against Charlotte at the last pay-per-view she wrestled on and got her ass kicked. So I don't know if Alexa winning would make any sense unless The Fiend came back in the next match and won in the men's match or something. Well, they're probably going to be pretty spread out. The Women's Rumble, what do you guys think? Will the Women's Rumble open the show? Will they do that? Or will they open with... Shit, what are they going to open with? I mean, all the 4 undercard matches, 3 of them are title matches. So I feel like you could open with the mixed tag, probably do that, and then maybe the Women's Rumble followed by Roman and Seth, followed by Becky and Drew drop, followed by either the Men's Rumble or Brock and Lashley, and then the other one will be the main event. That's the order I would do it, but, the order of the matches definitely matters a lot. So maybe Alexa Bliss. Also, Bayley. Bayley tore her knee to shit last year. I still think it's a bit early for her to return, but she has been teasing it a bit. She's been seen walking around without crutches and stuff, so she could be ready to rock, and having her come out, I would love to see her win it, but I don't know where. I think she could make an appearance, and instead of winning the Rumble, Bayley could come back in the Rumble, and whoever eliminates her will be who she feuds with. Or, she can feud for the other title or whatnot. We don't even really know what brand she's going to be on. Probably SmackDown, right? Is that where she was? So it just kind of depends on what she does, what her situation is, and if she comes back as a heel or a babyface. I feel like she's going to get a babyface welcome whenever she returns, but will she continue to be a babyface? Bayley's awesome. I think Bayley being a heel is better because she's funny. So it might be cool if Bayley came back, got the babyface reception, even reacted to it like a babyface, maybe gets eliminated in the Royal Rumble and kisses the fans goodbye as she's leaving and she gets a standing ovation. Welcome back, Bayley, and maybe a little tear in her eye. And then the next time she's on TV, she cuts a promo and just heels on the fans. You idiots, you're so stupid. You thought I actually liked that you were cheering for me? You guys suck, or something like that. Something that Chris Jericho would do, So I think that that could be a lot of fun for Bayley. So even if she's in the Rumble, I don't think she necessarily needs to win it. Same goes for Alexa Bliss. Really here, my only two picks are Bianca Belair, if Ronda Rousey does not come back, Ronda Rousey if she does. Because if Rousey is in the Rumble, she damn well is winning it. And I also think that if Rousey comes back, she should be number 30. Because if she comes back at number 15, that's ball game. If Rousey, they're not going to put Rousey in the Rumble to not have her win it. So I feel like Rousey really could win the Rumble and then go on to challenge Becky, and then we get that Becky-Ronda match that we never really got at 35. And now it's reversed. If you remember, it was Ronda who went heel, and Becky was the babyface. Now it would be switched. Now Ronda would be babyface, Becky would be a heel. Might introduce an interesting dynamic unless fans are still bitter about the way Ronda acted in terms of her heel persona on the way out. But, I think much like Bayley, doesn't matter if she was a heel before, she will get a loud response from the crowd. I'll be really happy to see her. The only thing that would bother me a little bit is that it might come at the expense of what I would like to see happen with Bianca Belair. So I don't know if I'm allowed to pick two. I feel like making this prediction, I also have to predict whether or not Ronda Rousey's in the match, and that doesn't seem fair. So I'm going to pick Bianca if no Rousey, Rousey if Rousey. So there's my prediction there. We'll have to wait and see. But if, as you're watching the Rumble tomorrow, if Rousey appears, that's my pick. So there you go. If not, Bianca all the way, baby. But you also have to take in consideration Crown Jewel, and apparently they are going to have Elimination Chamber, at least Elimination Chamber match, possibly matches on the pay-per-view. I don't know with Saudi Arabia if they're going to stick a bunch of women in a cage and let them fight. Don't know if that would fly, but if they are going to do a women's match, Elimination Chamber match at Crown Jewel, that will probably determine a challenger for a women's title unless they put a women's title on the line in the chamber, which actually could also happen. So that's something that you at least have to keep in mind when determining these winners. Because another direction you could go, even though it would suck, is to have Rousey win, face Becky, and then Bianca somehow challenges Charlotte. I don't know, for the title, but that would take away from the Bianca-Becky thing that I still think needs to be paid off. And don't discount Charlotte. 30 years is the anniversary this year from when her dad won the Royal Rumble. If Ric Flair wasn't such a shithead and has kind of been being distanced from by a lot of wrestling promotions, I think WWE would absolutely play into that and have Charlotte potentially win the Royal Rumble as an homage to her father. The problem is she's champion. How does that work? So Charlotte is another name that I would at least have in my mind, but I think a lot of fans would hate that. I would like it personally as an old school fan to see a father-daughter Rumble winner combo 30 years apart. That's pretty cool to me, but 20-year-olds aren't going to find that cool because they're young and they're stupid. So I'm kidding. But I personally would kind of like that, but I think there's much more juiciness with a Rousey or a Bianca victory. So it's going to be one of them. Men's Royal Rumble this could be the main event. It's either going to be this or Brock or Lashley, I believe. And I think in recent Rumbles, they've kind of bookended the two Rumbles, like the women's one opens, men's closes. They could still do that. They might. Otherwise, it might be a little bit jumbled up. But you got to wonder the surprise entrance in this as well. Let me cruise over here to the Rumble lineup here for the men. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 17, 20. We got 22, it looks like, announced for the men's Rumble. Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn, Ray and Dominic, Austin Theory, Gable Academy, or whatever they're called, Street Profits, Kofi, Madcap, Corbin, Sheamus, Priest, Big E, Riddle, Randy, the Dirty Dogs, Omos, Owens, and AJ. So that leaves like 8 spots open. Like I said, I think JBL would be a fun entrant here since he's there. Maybe even a Titus O'Neil if you want to do that. Maybe a Booker T. But what about NXT? What about Braun Breaker? I think I would actually bet that Braun Breaker will be in the Rumble. I just think giving him that little taste of a big crowd, of a big pay-per-view, will be good experience for him, considering how young he is. He'll be able to say that, he entered a Royal Rumble, wrestling on one of the biggest pay-per-views ever at such a young age, and they obviously have big plans for him in the future. So I think, Braun Breaker should definitely be in the Royal Rumble. Possibly Gunther, although, I'm not ready to see him just come in there and get tossed out either. So I'm okay if Gunther doesn't appear. Grayson Waller I could see appearing because he's shown up on Raw a couple of weeks. And what about Veer? We've seen these vignettes for Veer. He's been coming to Raw for the better part of a year, that Veer. But what if he showed up in the Rumble? You know what I think would be funny is if Veer, because they keep running these vignettes, Veer is coming to Raw. It doesn't say anything about him coming to the Rumble. So they could debut him in the Rumble and then on Monday run another vignette for him. Veer coming soon to Raw. And then everybody be like, he was just in the Rumble. I think it would be fun to play along with the joke because apparently internally WWE has no plans for Veer. They just keep running the vignettes kind of as a joke now. So I think if Veer came out in the Rumble but then didn't debut on Raw for another 12 weeks would be hilarious. So we'll see if that happens. What about some other names from outside the company? The Forbidden Door. Matt Cardona. Zack Ryder might be on my radar. Maybe even Chelsea. You'd think if Zach comes, maybe Chelsea will. But I think a Cardona coming in, based on the name he's kind of made for himself on the indies and stuff, he's done really well. A lot of people thought his GCW match last week was a little bit of a letdown and overbooked and stuff. But basically him going out there and being that, that pretty boy WWE guy in a hardcore environment has done wonders for him. And he's kind of got that heat that John Cena had at ECW One Night Stand on the Hammerstein. So I think Cardona's done a great job. Would love to see him pop up here. And another random name that just randomly hit me that I think would be a lot of fun because I miss him and I think he's a great talent is Damian Sandow. What if Damian Sandow came back and back at his old way, maybe came out in his old getup and he was on the mic and did his shtick? A lot of guys, when they come back and make appearances in the Rumble, a lot of times that leads to a contract. A lot of times they're brought in just, for a one-night deal, but then based on their performance or the reaction they got, they talk to him backstage and maybe ink out some sort of a deal. I think he's working with NWA right now, but I think that could also probably be worked around. So I would love to see Damian Sandow turn up. He was another guy that I don't understand why they released. He's ridiculously talented and an excellent talker, and I think he'd be fun. Even maybe he could turn up in the Miz match and start doing his stunt double shit. I don't know, but I'd like to see Damian Sandow show up. John Cena is another name. I wouldn't put it past Cena to show up. I wouldn't even put it past Cena to win. I think we talked about that on Monday as it relates to Bobby Lashley. If Bobby Lashley beats Brock and Cena wins the Rumble, I would love to see Cena challenge Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania and Bobby Lashley beat him. I know that would mean another big loss in a championship match for Cena after losing to Roman at SummerSlam, and I think Cena needs to win his 17th title at some point. But if you remember, Lashley owes Cena one from way back in the day, right after the Chris Benoit murders. They worked Great American Bash, and Cena beat him. Cena beat him clean. So I think so many years now, and Lashley is a much different competitor. He's a lot older, a lot more experienced, and now he's a badass. I think it could have a very different outcome. So I wouldn't even hate if Cena came back, won the Rumble, and then Lashley beat him and retained the title at WrestleMania. Wouldn't hate that outcome. Got to at least mention Bray Wyatt. I kind of hope not. I don't want to see The Fiend. I think it would create an amazing pop, but I'd actually be disappointed if he came back at this point because I'd rather see him somewhere else. WWE is so damn creatively inept. I just tired of them trying to do shit right. So if The Fiend came back, it would be a surprise, but at the end of the day, I'm like, oh crap, that probably means he's re-signed, and now we have to do this shit again. So I'm kind of hoping we don't see The Fiend, but we might. What about the Forbidden Door stuff? A lot of talk about AEW. I think there was talk about Moxley and Cody in recent days and weeks. I don't see either of those happening at all. But, I suppose the only one in the company that could possibly make an appearance is Jericho. He seems to be untouchable. He did Broken Skull Sessions. Him and Vince, I guess, are still cool. And he could come in and do something at the Rumble. But how would it benefit anybody? What's the point of bringing him in, or would AEW even want that for Jericho to go in there and just get tossed out right away? I feel like more would have to be involved for that type of Forbidden Door to be open, because otherwise, why would WWE do it to give AEW any publicity at all, unless they brought Jericho out and made no mention of AEW, but AEW wouldn't let Jericho go there if they didn't get something out of it. Jericho talked very well of AEW on Broken Skull Sessions. So you would think if Jericho showed up, he'd have to come out to Judas so the fans can sing it, and they would have to mention that he's former AEW champion or current AEW star. So that seems incredibly unlikely. My opinion, my prediction is that no AEW talent will be here. And I think that's okay. Maybe in years down the road or whatever, but I don't see that door being opened. And in terms of impact, I've seen people mention Moose. Why not? If Mickey is there, why can't Moose be there? You could see Braun Strowman come back as well and make an appearance. That's not out of the question. But those are kind of some of my dark horse names that we could see appear. Jericho, Cody, Moxley, who I don't think are coming. I just wanted to mention them. Possibly Moose, Matt Cardona, Damian Sandow, Braun Breaker, Gunther, Grayson Waller, Veer, John Cena, guys like that. And if all those guys showed up, that should round out our 30. But I haven't told you who I think is winning yet. So here's a couple of guys on my radar. I mentioned the John Cena thing. I think it would be cool if John Cena won the Rumble, challenged Bobby Lashley, and lost at WrestleMania, because I think Lashley owes Cena a victory, and what a way to establish Lashley and get the most out of him for the last few years of his career that you can is to have him beat Brock and Cena at back-to-back Big Four pay-per-views. That's one way to fucking strengthen a guy's resume, you know what I mean? So that's not out of the question. Don't sleep on our former WWE champion, Big E, who apparently was going to lose the title one way or the other at day one, either to Seth or Brock. But if he wins, that could set up some interesting stuff as well. I wouldn't hate that if Big E won the title and then went into WrestleMania to face whoever, maybe even Brock or possibly Lashley again. We don't know. I think Big E is kind of a long shot at this point, but, they put the title on him and gave him a run. Winning the Royal Rumble would be a nice feather in his cap, and it would cap off, a hell of an 8 months for him, or 9 months, winning the Money in the Bank, then winning the WWE title, then turning around winning the Royal Rumble with a potential to win the WWE title again, because I really don't want Big E to be like the other guy I'm about to talk about here in a minute and only have one world title run to his credit. I think he deserves a lot more than that. Which brings me to Kevin Owens, who's another guy that, just re-signed his contract. Not sure if a Rumble victory is something that would really be tied into a contract, but a lot of times they try to convince you, like they tried to convince Jeff Hardy with the Hall of Fame. A lot of times they try to convince talent to stick around, say, hey, we'll belt you up, or, you'll win the Rumble, or we'll put you in WrestleMania, or whatever. I think Kevin Owens would be a really fun option, but if it is Kevin Owens, who does he face? Then is it going to be Lashley? I don't know. So I really don't have a winner selected for this. Right now, based on everything I've talked about today, I think Brock is a real option, guys, and but that's only, of course, if Brock and Lashley's match comes before the Royal Rumble and he gets screwed over by Roman, Heyman, or both, gets pissed. Like I said, F5's Dominic, into a TV monitor and heads out to the Royal Rumble and wins it and goes on to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think that, is the best way. But if it's somebody like Owens or whatever, I'm just kind of torn. I'm basically torn between Brock Lesnar and Kevin Owens. When I look at the field, I can't think of anybody else. When you look at Randy Orton and Riddle, they're going to be facing each other at WrestleMania. The other guy that could potentially win this, and I know it's nuts, so don't blame me. I'm just trying to examine all possibilities here. Omos. He's 9.5 feet tall and weighs 744 pounds. He's going to be tough to get out of the ring. And the way they've been presenting him and pushing him, even though he's not exactly Eddie Guerrero in the ring, makes you wonder how the hell anybody's going to toss him out. Who's going to dump him? Who's going to dump him out? The only person I think who could dump him out is some superhero surprise entrant like a John Cena or a Brock Lesnar. I think John Cena or Brock could potentially AA or F5 him right out of the ring. The only other guy possibly is Big E. I think Big E, if Omos is going to get thrown out, I think instead of doing a bunch of guys, they probably will do the deal where 9 guys toss him out like Andre the Giant. Otherwise, I'd go with Big E, to dump out Omos. So we'll see where it goes. Some of these other names on there, Sheamus, I don't feel it. Damian Priest, I don't feel that. I suppose Madcap Moss could win. When I look at the field, AJ perhaps, but I just keep looking at Owens. Something about it just making me think possibly Kevin Owens or Dominic. Remember I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if WWE really wants to create the illusion that anything can happen, have Dominic win. I don't understand after 33 years or 2 years, whatever it's been of the Royal Rumble, how we've not had some crazy underdog win. I don't think Benoit and Mysterio count as crazy underdogs. I think Maven or Dominic or somebody like that counts as underdogs. Santino Marella nearly won it that year, the one that Del Rio won, right? Wasn't he the last one in there with Del Rio? And I thought for a minute he might actually win it. So, if it was somebody like that, just for fun one year, why not? Because it's supposed to be a crapshoot. Bunch of guys fighting, it's luck of the draw type of thing. It doesn't matter how big or bad you are. You get a shitty number, you're at a huge disadvantage. So I think it would be fun one year to see some guy that's on nobody's radar, come in at number 30 and fall ass backwards into a victory. Because I don't give a shit. There's no rules to me for the Royal Rumble. It doesn't always have to be, a young star. A lot of fans get mad when you suggest Cena or Brock. The Rumble should go to young people or to newer stars. Says who? Who won the first fucking 4 Royal Rumbles? Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Big John Studd, and Hogan twice. There is no rule that says it has to be somebody who's like on the cusp of greatness. There's other ways to get there. You can still get to the championship without having to do that. Eddie Guerrero did. Eddie Guerrero didn't have to win the Rumble. He became champion, became a big star, had a great WrestleMania moment. It's not always for those people. There's nothing wrong with a Shawn Michaels or an Undertaker or a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Hulk Hogan winning these things, or a Randy Orton or a John Cena or a Brock Lesnar. So if you're of the opinion that it has to be, somebody like a Big E or Chad Gable or somebody on the cusp of stardom, I don't agree. It doesn't have to be like that at all. There is no right or wrong way to do it. So to me, when I look at that field and who I want it for the most, I am going to pick Kevin Owens to win the Royal Rumble. I think it's a huge long shot. But when I look at the possibilities and what you can do and who the champions are going to face and all that stuff, I still think you somehow got to do Brock and Roman at WrestleMania, or at least Brock and Roman at Crown Jewel. It is possible we get it at Crown Jewel. But if it's at WrestleMania, Brock is either going to have to just get a title match somehow, or he's going to have to, like I said, insert himself into the Royal Rumble and win it. So it's kind of like Rousey. If Rousey and Brock are in the Rumbles, Rousey and Brock will win the Rumbles. I don't think Brock will have happened to him like a couple years ago when McIntyre eliminated him. I think Rousey and Brock being in the Rumble equals a Rumble victory. If they are not in the Rumble, then Bianca Belair and, like I said, Kevin Owens. So barring some major return, major surprise, somebody that we weren't thinking about, I'm going Kevin Owens to win the Men's Royal Rumble. Let's see how I do. So just to recap, we've got Beth and Edge Phoenix over Miz and Maurice, Becky retaining the Raw Women's title over Doudrop, Roman retaining the Universal title over Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley winning the WWE title from Brock Lesnar, most likely with a lot of help from Heyman, Roman, or both. And then in the Women's Rumble, I've got Bianca Belair winning unless Ronda Rousey comes back, then Ronda's going to win. In the Men's Rumble, I've got Kevin Owens winning unless Brock drops the title, gets pissed, shows up in the Rumble and wins it, then I've got Brock. So there you go. I know the predictions are a little, I'm going to predict this if this happens and this if that happens, but it's hard to predict matches when you don't know who the fuck is in the match. So So I did the best I could there. So let me know what you agree with, disagree with, and what do you think? And that will do it. So I got some super chats to answer. I'm going to do that now. See if there's any other questions and stuff you guys want to talk about. And then I'll be getting out of here in the next few minutes. Do me a big favor, please. Smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. I would appreciate it. And if you are not a subscriber, please do that. We will be up here tomorrow night immediately following the Royal Rumble for a full show review. And we will talk all about how right or wrong these predictions turned out to be. But let me cruise over here to Nikita. I got your $10 drop earlier. Stone Cold 10X. Thank you for that $2. If she is in it, money is on Ronda Rousey winning. You agree with me. That's what I say. If Ronda's in it, Ronda wins. Plain and simple. Who's next? Sorry, I'm just looking for him here. Deshaun, what's up, dude? Thank you for that $5. Stardust and Goldust will make their return. I have heard the Stardust stuff. You know, Goldust is a name that possibly could. You know, when it comes to that forbidden door, he is one guy that wouldn't have such a connection to AEW. Yes, obviously everybody knows that Dustin Rhodes works for AEW, but if he came back as the Goldust character, you know, it would almost be like a different person. So I should have mentioned him earlier. I would not rule out Goldust. He might even be more of an option than Jericho, unless Dustin has got some animosity towards the company for whatever reason. I think he would almost be more likely than Jericho because Jericho has been so synonymous with AEW's start. He helped get them rolling. He's their first champion. And Goldust coming back would be a different character from who he is in AEW. He would be more a WWE character, and that's probably the one guy that I think would be the most likely to make an appearance if WWE asked for him. Stardust, I don't think. And I don't think Cody would want to do that. But it would be cool to see them both in there, Stardust and Goldust, but I think Goldust is more likely. So Deshaun is right. Look for Goldust. I think it's possible. Spaz Phoenix, what's up, bro? Thank you for the 5. Shoot over to Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel and hit him with a subscription. WWE got Mickey, Impact's champion, got shut down by their tag champs, the Iconics. Why not try their digital media champion, Jordan Grace? I would like to see Jordan Grace show up. Jordan Grace is awesome, but I don't know if enough people... it's kind of like Big Swole. I'd like to see Big Swole come out, but I think she'd get a moderate reaction from the crowd. And same goes with Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace, I don't know, just based on her look alone. I've only seen a couple of her matches, so, you know, I don't really think that she's Charlotte in the ring or anything like that, but her look is incredible, you know, and you don't see many of those, you know, just big, strong women that just pick you up and throw you places. Give me Jordan Grace versus Nyla Rose or something, or, you know, Doudrop. I would like to see that a lot. Jordan Grace, I'm surprised, doesn't have a contract with someone bigger than Impact, but I also think that's coming. Her workout shit she posts on Twitter is ridiculous. Like, it cracks me up when I see women that can absolutely beat the living fuck out of me. So I like her a lot, and I would love for her to turn up. Savio Vega. Oh, Double J. Good one, Sam. I definitely think Jeff Jarrett could show up in the Hall of Fame, the Royal Rumble for sure. Savio Vega, maybe. Shannon Moore, maybe. AJ Styles, Bully, has predicted to win the Rumble. Wouldn't hate it. It's something that has eluded AJ so far. I mean, he's starting to show his age. AJ and I are the same age. And when I see what's going on to the midsection of AJ Styles, I'm like, yep, same thing's happening to me. So I don't know how many years AJ's going to be able to do springboard 450s. You know what I mean? So if he's got one more little push in him, winning a Rumble might be a nice feather in his cap. WWE, if you remember, trusted this guy immediately, made his debut 6 years ago in 2016 to one of the biggest Royal Rumble pops we've ever seen, and he was immediately trusted and handed the championship within 9 months of him being in the company. So I don't think WWE has forgotten that. I think they still love and respect AJ and know what he can offer, and he kind of is the closest thing to a modern-day Shawn Michaels in terms of his work rate and longevity and style and ability to go into his mid-40s and still have bangers. Those guys are pretty hard to come by. They're once in a couple of decades type of dudes. So I think AJ is not out of the question at all. Bully, if AJ won, I'd love it. Would have no issue with it whatsoever. Another 5 from Spaz. My own preview of this show is up now for anyone interested. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iTunes, and more. Cheers, Greg, in the chat. Rumble Love, O-O-E-E-O-O. I don't know what that means. But yeah, thank you, Spaz, for that again. And go check out Spaz's platforms. He is everywhere, just like we are. Jerry Briscoe would be fun. Triple H, no. Oh, you know what? Sonic Plays. Somebody mentioned that to me on Twitter yesterday, and I wholeheartedly agreed with it. Bad Bunny. Would love to see Bad Bunny in the Rumble. Why not? He paid his dues at WrestleMania. He showed us that he's not fucking worthless and he can get in there and actually do shit. But you got to remember, we already have Knoxville in there. So I don't know if you really want to stack it up with too many, outsiders or celebrities or whatnot. But at least Bunny is a guy that if he went in there, he would do a spot. And don't discredit Knoxville either. He's nuts. At least with the Jackass guys, they're going to go in there and take some bumps. They're not going to Drew Carey this shit. Johnny Knoxville is probably going to take some sort of a gnarly bump. Remember when Steve-O and Party Boy got the shit beat out of him by Umanga? That was great stuff, and he fucked him up, man. Hit him with splashes and kicking him and shit. So I think Knoxville will be in there to go. So maybe we don't need Bad Bunny, but if he was there to maybe team up with Damian Priest for a while, chuck some people out, and maybe even Priest does the thing where he gets pissed and turns on Bad Bunny and fucks him up because he has these rage issues. Could be. Oh, you know what? Good one. Vikings. LA Knight and Corey Graves. LA Knight, yes, all the way, yes. I think he's ready for prime time right now. And Corey Graves would be fun. We mentioned that a couple of days ago or weeks ago, whenever it was, when he was when it was announced or reported that he's been cleared to return to the ring, I should say. And I brought up the 1997 Rumble with Jerry Lawler, where he got off headset in mid-match and entered the Rumble only to be eliminated right away. I think it would be cool if Corey did that too, if he hopped off headset and got in the Rumble. But, if he's out there on commentary, there's no stretching involved first. He could get hurt unless he's just in there for a short time. But I wouldn't want to see Corey do what Lawler did. If Corey gets in the ring again, a lot of people are going to question him physically. He hasn't been in the ring in a long time. What can he really do? Is he capable of, taking punishment and being resilient, things like that? If you stuck him in the Rumble and he went 30 minutes, I think he'd get a nice little ovation on his way back to the locker room if they did it that way. So I would like to see Corey Graves for sure in the Rumble. We'll see how that goes. The Hurricane, C-Mac, definitely. I could see the Hurricane in there. And I think it would be weird if we only saw Knoxville in the Rumble. You know what I mean? It seems like they're promoting the movie. They had other Jackass guys on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, right? So I think, along with Knoxville, it is very possible that Steve-O and Danger Aaron and all those guys could show up at ringside and maybe catch him. Maybe if he's eliminated from the Rumble, they catch him and stick him back in. Watch for that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I like it. Raquel Gonzalez in the Rumble, for sure. Ciampa, Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong. I'd be fine with all of them, although I really hope Roderick Strong heads over to AEW soon and reunites with his homies. Ali J, oh my God, Tony Gurria. You guys have some weird ass suggestions here, but the cool thing about the Rumble, what makes it one of my favorite pay-per-views or my favorite pay-per-view of the year, is the unpredictability of it, because you really don't know what they have up their sleeve. There's been plenty of Rumbles that have been a letdown, but there's also been plenty of Rumbles where we've been surprised as hell. Like, holy shit, I can't believe he came back. So the possibility of that type of stuff happening always keeps me excited for the Royal Rumble. So tomorrow, hopefully, will be a very, very, very fun day. Make sure you follow me on Twitter tomorrow at Good Mike Works, so you can follow along with me as I tweet about the show. If you want to talk about it, ask me questions, whatnot, follow me over on Twitter. And if you are in here now and you are not subscribed, please get on that. Click that button right now. Make sure you like this video on the way out the door and join us tomorrow night for our Royal Rumble review. Right after the pay-per-view goes off the air, give me about 15 minutes, we will be up and I will have a link for tomorrow's review posted on the channel later tonight. Didn't get around to doing it today, but it will be up here in just a few hours, so keep a lookout for that. I got to get out of here now. I got to head off to work before having a nice, long 3-day weekend, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday night. Enjoy SmackDown that comes on in about an hour. If you guys want to shoot me updates on Twitter as to what's going on SmackDown, feel free to, as well as Rampage, but I don't anticipate anything too nuts happening tonight on SmackDown, probably just the final table setting for the Rumble, and, hopefully it'll just be a good go-home show. So you guys, Daniel Bryan. Maybe. If anybody could, he could, because, he's, WWE likes him, but I don't know. I mean, his wife's going to be there. I wouldn't completely rule that out, to be honest, Rodrigo. I don't think so, but Daniel Bryan, why not? But I think if he came in, we'd want him to win it, So that just doesn't doesn't seem possible. So anyway, you guys take care. Have a great rest of your Friday night. I will catch you guys tomorrow for Royal Rumble review. I can't wait.